This is Sam's Requiem, broadcasting from a hidden corner of a broken world. If my voice reaches you, you're among the few still holding on. What you're about to hear is the tale of someone who fought to survive, or at least tried to. Hit that subscribe button and drop a comment if you're out there, clinging to hope. Let's dive in. I've been holed up in this crumbling apartment for days, maybe weeks. Time's a slippery thing now, stretching thin like a thread about to snap. The world flipped upside down so fast I barely had time to blink. One day, my life was a predictable loop of doctor visits, pill bottles, and the hum of late-night TV. Now, every second is a desperate scramble to stay alive. My meds, the lifeline keeping my body from betraying me, are running low, dwindling to a handful of doses on the kitchen counter. Going outside feels like tossing dice with death, but I'm out of options. This city used to thrum with life. Horns blaring, people rushing, lights painting the skyline. Then the first emergency alert screamed through every screen and speaker, and it all went quiet. Streets turned into ghost towns, windows got boarded up, and anything resembling normal vanished overnight. For me, getting around was never simple. My wheelchair turns every trip into a chess game. Ramps, debris, tight corners, but now it's a gauntlet. What was once a quick roll to the drugstore is a battlefield of shattered concrete and those things. Infected. The word knots my stomach, even when I only dare think it. I figured I could ride this out, stretch the canned soup and crackers stashed in my pantry. But my condition doesn't wait. Those little vials on the counter aren't just medicine, they're my anchor. Without them, I'll unravel, too weak to move, too shaky to fight. I've been staring at them, counting what's left, knowing I can't stay put much longer. If I don't act soon, I won't have the strength to roll out that door. The first day is burned into my brain. My TV blared a shrieking tone, cutting through the afternoon stillness. Red letters flashed across a black screen. Emergency alert. All residents stay indoors. Infectious outbreak confirmed. Multiple reports of violent behavior. Do not leave until advised. It looped endlessly, the anchor's voice trembling, his eyes wild like he knew something worse was coming. I grabbed my phone, tried calling my sister, my neighbor, anyone. Lines were dead, jammed with panic. Hours later, the power stuttered and died. I dug through my cabinets, tallying my pill stash. Dread settled in like a heavy coat. The radio kicked on the next morning, a robotic voice spitting the same warning: stay inside. Avoid contact. No rescue. No details, just a command to hunker down. My building's old, its bones creaking, but it's solid. Most folks bolted early, leaving the halls silent except for the occasional thud or scrape from above. I think some are still here, hiding behind locked doors. Sometimes I hear a sob, faint and far off, or catch a shadow slipping past. We're all too scared to connect. Nights are the worst. No electricity means pitch-black corridors, suffocating and endless. I've got a few battery lanterns, but I ration their glow. Batteries are gold now. My phone's a brick, useless without a charge. The radio's my only link to the outside, spitting static and recycled alerts. My wheelchair's parked by the door, ready to roll. I check it obsessively, tightening screws, testing the wheels. It's my legs, my escape, my survival. My condition's a constant hum in the background. Aches when I twist too far, stiffness if I sit too long. I can manage it with the meds, but without them? I don't want to imagine. Late one night, the radio crackled with a new message. Emergency alert. High-risk exposure in your area. Movement discouraged. Secure your location. Use extreme caution if you must travel. No promise of help. No supply drops. Just a cold, clear warning. That's when I knew no one's coming. I pulled a worn backpack from under the sink, stuffing it with essentials, water, a granola bar, a pocket knife I'd kept for emergencies. It's not much, but it's something. Sleep wouldn't come. The wind howled through busted windows downstairs, the building groaning like it's alive. I dozed for an hour, maybe 2, jolting awake to every creak. Morning came, gray and heavy. I ate a stale biscuit, gathered my courage, and checked my gear. For blocks north, there's a small pharmacy, not a chain, just a local spot. Less foot traffic might mean leftovers. It's a long shot, but it's all I've got. I rolled through my apartment one last time, sealing windows with duct tape and boards. The radio buzzed again. Emergency alert. Infected in residential zones. Do not engage. Medical services unavailable. Seek shelter. I switched it off, my gut twisting. Opening the door felt like stepping off a cliff. The hallway stretched out, dim and shadowed, the emergency lights long dead. I taped a flashlight to my armrest, its beam cutting through the gloom. Furniture blocked the elevator. Useless anyway, so I aimed for the ramp by the stairs. Every push of my wheels echoed, too loud in the stillness. Footsteps pattered overhead, then stopped. Survivor or infected? I didn't wait to find out. The exit door hung open, propped by a chunk of rubble. I squeezed through, the cold air hitting me like a slap. Outside, the city was a graveyard. Cars abandoned, glass crunching under my tires, storefronts gutted. A faint moan drifted from behind a truck. I froze, spotting a figure lurching in jerks. My breath caught, but I rolled on, sticking to the open road. This was just the beginning. The city sprawled out like a corpse, silent except for the crunch of my wheels on broken pavement. Cars sat wrecked, doors flung wide. Some smashed into each other like they'd tried to flee and failed. Streetlights loomed dark, their bulbs shattered, casting jagged shadows. I'd planned a straight shot to the pharmacy. 4 blocks, no detours, but every inch felt like a trap. Side streets tempted me with cover, but their narrow twists could box me in. I stuck to the main road, praying the open space would let me see trouble coming. Half a block in, a low groan rolled out from behind a rusted van. My arms locked, heart hammering. An infected stumbled into view, jerky steps, head lolling, clothes torn to rags. I angled away, keeping my distance. It didn't notice me, too lost in its days, and I wasn't about to change that. The sidewalks were a mess, cracked slabs, toppled signs, bags and shoes scattered like someone dropped everything and ran. I rolled onto the street itself, dodging glass and metal, scanning every corner. A scream echoed somewhere far off, sharp and fleeting. I couldn't tell if it was human or not. The air reeked, rotting garbage mixed with something sour and dead. On a normal day, this trip would have been a breeze, 15 minutes, tops. Now, my arms burned from pushing, my eyes darting for threats. At the second block, I hit a checkpoint, orange cones and wooden planks thrown together, now abandoned. Police cars sat crooked, doors gaping, a bulletproof vest crumpled in the dirt. No cops, no survivors, just a snapshot of chaos that swallowed them whole. I rolled past, the pharmacy's faded sign flickering into sight ahead. Hope flared, but dread coiled tighter. The store's front was a wreck, windows smashed, the door half-blocked by a twisted shelf. If it had been cleaned out, I was sunk. I slowed, ears straining. A rasp scraped from inside, faint but close. Wind, or something worse. The entrance was a jagged puzzle, glass teeth glinting, metal bit. I edged through, wheels crunching debris, and paused to let my eyes adjust. Shelves lay toppled, pills and boxes spilled across the floor. Sunlight leaked through the broken windows, painting the mess in dull gold. My flashlight beam swept the shadows, steady but thin. That rasp came again, sharper now. I peered over a fallen rack and saw it. A figure in a white coat, sprawled near the back. Not moving, not breathing right. My gut said infected, and I wasn't sticking around to confirm. I wheeled toward the counter, where locked cabinets hung open, contents picked over. My prescription was the prize. Without it, I'd be a ghost soon enough. I rummaged through the chaos, hands shaking, tossing aside half-empty bottles. Then there, a small stash of my meds, tucked in a cracked plastic bin. Relief hit like a wave, but I clamped it down. No time to celebrate. I shoved the vials into my bag, grabbing bandages, antiseptic, a couple protein bars, anything useful. The radio in my pack crackled to life. Emergency alert. Widespread infections in commercial zones. Seek shelter now. The voice boomed, bouncing off the walls. That rasp turned into a shuffle. The figure in the coat twitched, limbs jerking as it hauled itself up. Hollow eyes locked on me, a guttural moan spilling out. I spun my chair, dodging a broken shelf. It lurched closer, slow but relentless. My will snagged on a metal strip. I yanked it free, zigzagging through the wreckage. I burst back into daylight, the pharmacy shrinking behind me. The city's hush pressed in, suffocating. I'd scored the meds, but the return trip loomed. I veered onto a side street, old brick buildings, some windows boarded, others gaping like wounds. Flyers for long-dead events littered the ground. The path narrowed, cars jammed into a snarl. An alley beckoned tight, cluttered, but clear of big obstacles. I took it, flashlight bouncing off damp walls. A scuffle erupted behind a dumpster. I froze, beam steady. Nothing moved, just dripping water from a busted pipe. I rolled on, nerves screaming. The alley spat me out at a flooded intersection, a hydrant spewing water, shimmering under the sun. Across the street, an infected swayed, rags hanging off its frame. A dog barked somewhere, sharp and wild. The figure snapped toward it, distracted. I seized the chance, wheels splashing through the flood, breath ragged. I turned a corner, the barking fading, the hydrant's hum chasing me. My building wasn't far now, just a few more blocks between me and a locked door. The pharmacy run left me rattled but alive, my bag heavy with meds and a fragile shred of hope. I took a different route back, less open, more cover, hugging the edges of brick buildings and dodging wrecked cars. The street stayed quiet, save for the hum of that busted hydrant fading behind me. My arms ached, muscles screaming from the constant push, but I couldn't stop. Not yet. My apartment block loomed ahead, its faded brick a beacon in the gray. Near the entrance, a figure stood by a chain-link fence, clutching a metal pole. They spotted me, eyes narrowing. I froze, hands tied on my wheels. Friend or foe? They hissed a low, quiet, nodding toward the main road. Big group of them, couple blocks that way. Infected, they meant. I muttered about heading inside. They gave me a hollow look, pity, maybe, and said, hurry. No offer to help, just a shared nod in this hellscape. They turned away, and I rolled on. The front door still hung open, that chunk of concrete keeping it ajar. I slipped inside, the lobby dim and stale. The emergency light flickered, casting a weak strobe. A sour whiff hit me, something had been here, alive or otherwise. I scanned the shadows, rolling toward the ramp. The elevator barricade stood untouched, a messy pile of chairs and tables. My floor's hallway was silent, save for a faint murmur behind a door, someone talking, maybe praying. I didn't linger. Back in my apartment, I shoved a dresser against the door, hands trembling as I unloaded my haul. Meds, bandages, bars, my lifeline, intact despite smudged labels. I cleaned them off, relief washing over me. Those pills meant I wouldn't fade out, not yet. I popped a dose with a swig of water, sinking into the couch. The lantern's glow danced on the walls, shadows twitching like ghosts. I checked the windows, boards solid, tape holding. A scream pierced the night, distant but raw. I tensed, waiting. It didn't come again. The radio hummed low. Emergency alert, condition red in multiple sectors. Travel highly discouraged. Stay in fortified shelter. No evacuation, no help, just a looped plea to hunker down. I pictured others out there, listening, waiting, maybe dying. The city's collapse wasn't news anymore, it was reality. My pantry stared back, half empty. Food and water were next. The building might have scraps and empty units, safer than another trek outside. I'd figure it out after some rest. Sleep dodged me, though. The wind rattled the boards, and every creak jolted me awake. I thought about the pharmacy, the worker I'd seen, slumped, then rising. They'd probably stayed to help, even as the world fell. Now they were one of them. It could have been me if I'd hesitated. My wheelchair, once a burden, felt like defiance now, a tool forcing me to plan, to think. Panic kills. Caution keeps me breathing. Morning crept in, pale light seeping through cracks. I was alive, medicated, functional. The raid worked, but the war wasn't over. I sketched a plan, scavenged nearby, ration tighter. The radio droned on, emergency alert, stay indoors. Authorities working on infrastructure. A lie, probably. The hospital was a tomb days ago, no stations, no cavalry. I was on my own. Then a crash. Loud, heavy from the hallway. Not the wind, not the building's groan. Something hit hard. I killed the lantern, ears straining. Shuffling followed, slow and uneven. My pulse spiked. I grabbed my pocket knife, easing toward the door. Cracking it open, I peered out. The hall was black, save for a faint skylight glow. Plaster dust coated the floor. Something had smashed into the stairwell. A shape hunched there, ragged and twitching. Infected. It turned, empty eyes catching the light. My wheelchair glinted, and it rasped, shambling closer. I retreated, shutting the door soft as I could, shoving the dresser back. No pounding followed. Maybe it lost me in the dark. My breath steadied, but sleep was gone. I hammered the window boards tighter, wincing at the noise. The infected was out there, roaming my hall. I could wait it out, but for how long? That infected in the hallway flipped everything. My apartment, my shaky fortress, wasn't safe anymore. I sat by the lantern, its dim flicker steadying my nerves. The meds were secure, lined up like soldiers on the shelf, but food and water taunted me, jug half full, cans too few. The building might have more, tucked in vacant units or that old storage closet downstairs. Risky, but less than rolling back into the city. I needed a plan. A soft tap broke my thoughts, 2 knocks on the wall, sharp and clear. My neighbor. Thin walls carried sound like a whisper network. I tapped back, pulse quickening. 2 knocks returned, then 1, then silence. Someone was there, alive, reaching out. Ally or trap? I couldn't decide. Trust was a gamble, but so was going solo with infected creeping closer. I held off, focusing on my next move. I sketched a map, hallways, ramps, stairwells, memory guiding my pencil. The closet 2 floors down might have tools, maybe food. Maneuvering in the dark with my chair was a slog, but I'd done worse. My gear piled up. Knife, a spear I'd rigged from a mop and scrap metal, spare batteries. The wheelchair's tires worried me. No backup if they blew. I'd have to roll careful. The radio buzzed. Emergency alert. Infected clusters growing. Avoid travel. Stay inside. Same old song. No salvation. Daylight filtered in, dust swirling in the stale air. I prepped to move, but that shuffle in the hall gnawed at me. Was it still out there? I cracked the door's silence, shadows, plaster dust. The infected was gone, or lurking. I couldn't chance it yet. The neighbor tapped again, 3 slow knocks. I mirrored it, waiting. Nothing. Maybe they were scared too, testing me. I'd deal with them later, supplies first. The hallway stretched endless, my flashlight carving a thin path. I rolled slow, wheels hushed on the tile. The ramp loomed ahead, steep but doable. A thud echoed from above, something falling or someone moving. I pushed on, reaching the lower floor. The closet door hung ajar, rusted hinges creaking as I nudged it open. Inside, jackpot, a mop bucket, a box of nails, 2 cans of soup. Not much, but enough to stretch me a few days. A scrape froze me mid-reach. Behind the door, a shadow shifted, low, uneven breaths. Infected. It lurched out, skeletal, eyes blank. I stabbed with the spear, clumsy but hard, catching its shoulder. It staggered, groaning, and I wheeled back, heart pounding. The hall was tight, too tight. I shoved toward the ramp, its moans chasing me. My chair scraped the wall, but I made it, hauling up the incline. The thing didn't follow, too slow, maybe. Back in my unit, I barricaded the door, panting. The soup cans clattered onto the table, small wins in a losing game. The neighbor knocked again, insistent for taps. I knocked back, then spoke low. You there? Silence, then a scratchy whisper through the wall. Yeah, you okay? A woman's voice, tired but steady. Barely, I said. You. Same. Saw that thing out there. Her name was Claire. She'd been holed up since day one, living off rice and rainwater. No meds, no chair, just grit. We traded stories through the wall, voices muffled. She'd seen infected on our floor, more than I'd guessed. We could team up, she said. Watch each other's backs. Tempting, but doubt not at me. Trust could save me or slit my throat. I told her I'd think it over. Night fell, the lantern casting long shadows. I ate half a can, savoring the warmth. The radio droned. Emergency alert. Residential zones compromised. Stay put. Claire tapped once, checking in. I tapped back. Maybe she was right. Alone, I'd survive the pharmacy. Together, we might outlast this nightmare. Claire's offer hung in the air, a lifeline or a noose. I mulled it over, spooning cold soup by lantern light. The infected in the hall from downstairs, every move proved I could hack it solo. But the building was turning, more shadows creeping in. Food wouldn't last, water was trickling out. 2 heads, 2 sets of hands, maybe that's the edge I needed. I tapped the wall. 3 knocks. She replied, quick and firm. Tomorrow, I whispered. We plan. Good, she said. Stay sharp. Morning broke, gray and heavy. I checked my stash, meds solid, food thin. Claire and I traded ideas through the wall. Her place had a better lock. Mine had the ramp access. We'd merge resources, fortify one spot. Hers won out, sturdier door, fewer windows. I'd roll over at noon, quiet as I could. The radio crackled. Emergency alert. Infected numbers rising. No evacuation. Hold your ground. No kidding. I packed light, meds, spear, soup, batteries, leaving the rest as decoys. The hall waited, silent but thick with threat. I rolled out, flashlight dimmed. Claire's door was 10 feet away, cracked open, her shadowed face peering out. Hurry, she mouthed. A groan rumbled from the stairwell, low, wet. I pushed hard, wheels squeaking. She yanked the door wide, and I slid in as something thudded below. She slammed it shut, bolting it tight. Her place was sparse, mattress, buckets of water, a baseball bat by the couch. Welcome, she said, half smiling. We traded inventory, my meds and cans, her rice and tools. Enough for a week, maybe 2. We boarded her windows, reinforced the door with a table. It wasn't perfect, but it was stronger. Night fell, and a scream tore through the walls, close, upstairs. We froze, weapons up. It faded, but the tension didn't. Days blurred. We took shifts, me by the door, her at the window. Infected shuffled past sometimes, their rasp seeping through. One night, a crash hit our floor, with splintering, feet dragging. Claire gripped her bat. I clutched the spear. The door rattled, a slow thud. We held still, breath shallow. It stopped, the thing moving on. We didn't sleep after that. The radio looped its warnings, static growing worse. Claire spotted lights across the street once, survivors, maybe. We didn't signal, too risky. Distant engines rumbled some nights, gone before we could hope. Supplies shrank, but we stretched them, plotting a run to the basement if it came to it. My meds held steady, her grit kept us sane. One dawn, a new alert cut through. Emergency alert, containment failing. Shelter in place. Claire laughed, bitter. Where else we gonna go? I smirked, but the truth stung. The city was a tomb, and we were its last gasps. Still, I'd rolled through hell and back for those pills. With Claire, I doubled my odds. We weren't done. Not yet. That's it for now, but the nightmare's far from over. If you're still listening, like, comment, subscribe. In a world this dark, the real terror starts when the voices fade. Keep fighting.